everyone. I'm Chelsea from Integram,
And I'm Jacob.
and today we'll be discussing how small businesses can harness the power of AI. I'm thrilled to be joined by my colleague Jacob and our special guest, Jim Harris, who is recognized as one of North America's leading experts on AI, making him a sought after voice in the conversation about AI and its transformative power for small businesses. Thank you, Jim, for joining us today.
It's so exciting to be here, Chelsea.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the world of AI?
So I began studying AI in 1997 when IBM's Deep Blue beat Garry Kasparov in chess. He was the world chess champion, and it shocked both the chess world and the world as a whole. But AI, that project cost IBM I feel a Dr. Evil moment coming on, $100 million when you adjust it for inflation to today's dollars. So AI was really only the purview of large companies. The same thing for Lee Sedol being beaten by Alpha Go in 2016. Go is an exponentially more complicated game with trillions of moves as opposed to chess moves. And again, it shocked the world, the professional world of Go and a whole, society and the world as a whole. But again, it was a tens of millions of dollars project. But what happened on November 30th, 2022, something happened that will be forever changing the way business and small business works. And that was the democratization of AI, because anybody can use ChatGPT for free, or you can pay the outrageous sum of 20 US a month to use the pro version. Whoa, $20 a month. So we've gone from a $100 million project to anybody being able to use AI. And ChatGPT really is the poster boy for AI for most people.
Yeah.
But what many people don't realize is there are more than 30,000 AI apps now. There has been an explosion of AI. And we think about it around LLMs and text, but I can, using a program called Suno, S-U-N-O, can create me a song about why I should do my training with Integram. And I want it to have a country and Western flavor. And I want to mention how we're all moving through life together and learning is the key. And like 2 minutes later, you will have a unique song created for you about why we should work with Integram. Okay, so it's audio. And then it's video. So I can upload a photo of myself to another AI, and then using text, say, create a video of me going through the pumpkin patch because we're coming up to, Halloween. And so just an image of me and then text. So AI is becoming multimodal in terms of inputs. So these things and video, I can speak to you in a 30-second thing saying, AI, we are seeing from 10x to 10,000x increases in productivity in certain applications, which means what only used to be the purview of large companies is now any SME, small and medium I'll learn how to speak during this podcast. Small and medium-sized enterprises or companies can do. So it is a great leveler of the playing field. And small and medium companies can now do what was only the purview of large companies with $100+ million budgets. So this AI is revolutionary. It's revolutionary for SMEs, for entrepreneurs. And it is text, video, audio, and then you can have multi-stacked tiers. And I'll give you an example. So I use Otter. Otter does real-time transcription. Okay. So you can have a meeting and it will transcribe word for word everything that people have said. And then at the end, summarize the key points and summarize the action items. So Chelsea committed to do this, Jacob committed to do that, Jim committed to do this. Boom. I used to have my business manager sit in on meetings with clients that I was consulting with, and she'd take the minutes of a 4-hour, 5-hour meeting, and then the rest of the day cleaning up the minutes and emailing people the minutes and assignments. She was on $40,000 a year. This is $20 a month. So when you do the math on this, this is a 99.5% reduction in cost for basically an admin function. So is this something that levels the playing field for entrepreneurs? So that's our entry level piece. But if we begin to stack AIs, so you use Otter for transcription, you're a student and you autorize your professor's class, okay?
Yeah.
You know, the lecture hall or the Zoom if you're doing a Zoom. And then you say, well, I really didn't understand this, this, and this, and you cut and paste it into ChatGPT and say, please explain to me in the language that a 7-year-old could understand this point, right?
Yes.
And the 3 points in the lecture that you really didn't get is now being custom delivered to you. And then say, what are 4 resources that I can view to really drive home how to do this for points 1, 2, and 3. And so this is stacking Otter and ChatGPT on top of each other. But so we can take these 30,000 AIs and stack them in different ways and get outputs that were impossible 3 years ago.
Wow. That's amazing. I wish that they had that when I was a student.
Well, I got to tell you, Chelsea, I'm still a student. So
I love
you
that.
have them all now. We are students of life here on this
Yeah.
podcast.
That is a great, great point. Kind of leads me into my next question. And I think you've kind of answered it a little bit in what you were just saying, but why do you think AI is particularly important for small businesses? And you answered this a little bit. Can you just elaborate a little bit more for us?
Sure. So what I want to say is that here's something. In 175 years ago in Canada, 80% of all jobs were in agriculture, okay? When farm automation came along, there were these huge protests, right? Like, what are we going to do with all the horse people? The horse people, Jacob, what are we going to do with the horse people? You know, they're going to lose their jobs, those poor horse people. Well, today, agriculture represents only 2% of employment in Canada. So we lost 78% of the jobs in agriculture, but you can't hire people today. In other words, we have full employment, but we survived. And so this really isn't a story about technology. It's a story about transformation. It's about digital transformation. It's about mindset. It's about training and education, which is why you should work with Integram, by the way. It's training and education that we need with people. It's engaging all our people. If I have a new technology that sits on my desk and in my office, but I don't know how to turn it on, that new technology offers zero strategic value to me. How do we engage our people, 100% of our people in our organization, around this transformation? So it's about culture. It's about mindset. And do you know that the number of Canadians who fear AI is about 2 to 1 to those who are excited about it? So don't expect 2/3 of your employees who are petrified in whole or part about AI to begin embracing and getting aggressive on the cultural transformation that we need and the process transformation. If you don't engage every single person in your company, you are not going to transform. And I used to represent Stephen Covey, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Great book. Still use it to this very day. And Stephen used to say, if you want to change your company, You have to train every single person in the 7 habits because it creates a common understanding, a common language, a common approach to change and innovation. And it is the same thing today with AI. We need to engage and train every single person. In fact, the World Economic Forum in Davos, I go every year, their most recent jobs report says every single person needs 20 extra days of training and education, given the rapid rate of change. 20 extra days. So every entrepreneur listening to this podcast, I'd ask you, are you doing 20 extra days from what you did pre-2022? I know the answer to what most people will say.
I think I do too.
Pretty obvious. um, for the next question though, Jim, you know, what you were just touching on with people being fearful of it, you know, and it's all about like disruption. I know that's a main theme of what you like to talk about. And when you hear disruption, it can have a bit of a negative connotation, but you view it in a very positive light. And how, so can you just explain like how it can be a positive that AI is disrupting small businesses?
Sure. So you can go to somebody who works in admin and say, what is it about your job you hate the most? And they'll say, you give me an Excel spreadsheet that's, 47 tabs, and I have to key in data into another system that we use. And it is the most brain dead work, and it's boring, and I make mistakes, and when the mistakes happen, they come back on me. And wouldn't it be great if we could just instantly automate that? And it was more accurate, it was instant, and so I don't have to do boring brain dead work. So if you start with what do you hate about your job, people will buy into it more quickly. So that's number one. Number two is, I'll tell a story. I was speaking to insurance agents, independent insurance agents in Minneapolis, or Indianapolis, actually, not Minneapolis, Indianapolis. And one of the keynotes after I keynoted, he was from Tennessee. And what he's done is automate the process of getting a life insurance quote. So it's 4 a.m. in the morning. You go to his website and it asks you a series of questions. How old are you? What's the state of your health? What's your total income per annum for you personally, for the household? How much is your house worth? What's the debt you have on it? What's your total debt? How many dependents do you have? It takes all that data and using ChatGPT says, how much life insurance should this individual carry? It comes back with a number, and then they take that number and all the data you just put in and go out to the most tech-forward broker in the US who sells large numbers of life policies. It gets 10 quotes. They come back 1 second later. Then they take the best one, which they define as the least expensive. And then they say, okay, ChatGPT, write me a selling letter. So why you should carry this much life. Here's why you should bind with us, buy your life insurance with us. Here's our customer service policy. And if you want to bind right now, here's DocuSign. So, I just finished putting in all my data, and 3 seconds later in my inbox is a 1.5-page email that I can just click on and bind a policy. Now, do you think CJ's company is going to outsell his competitors? Yes, no, maybe. Even more interesting for me is this. Prior to this, 85% of the work that his sales team did was on proposals, on bids, on quotes that never transacted. Why would that be? Well, I want to buy life, and I don't know what a policy costs, so I get quotes from 5 different life insurance brokers, right?
Yeah.
So your win rate is only going to be 20% out of the gate, right? But there might be other people who say, I have to buy my life insurance from my brother-in-law to keep my wife happy. And I want to make sure my brother-in-law is giving me a good or honest price. He's not gouging me. So they end up in those 5 quotes, you have 0% chance of winning. It's preordained, but I'm just going to waste 4 life insurance people's time to give me a quote to make sure my brother-in-law is honest. So they only win 15% of the bids. Imagine you have the ability with automation and AI to eliminate 85% of the brain dead, busy work that your sales team used to do, so that your sales team is only working on the 15% who will bind. And by the way, that email says you can either bind right now with DocuSign at 4:03 in the morning, or you can phone us at 9 a.m. and we'll bind the traditional way, right? So what that means when you do the math on this, if you've eliminated 85% of non-value added, busy paper pushing work, your sales team of 10 is really equal to a sales team of 60 that uses the old way of working.
Wow.
So CJ's sales team is equal to 60 people, not 10. So do you think he'll be able to outcompete other life insurance agents, not just in Tennessee, but anywhere? And then his people, his 10 agents, what they're doing, okay, you've now bound a life policy with us. Do you have a car? Would you like, and by the way, when you bind life and car, we give you 5% off each policy. And do you have a cottage that you'd like to bind, and a speedboat, or a snowmobile, or do you want travel insurance? And all of a sudden, your 10 people, all they're doing is adding value and cross-selling, and boom. Is CJ's business going to outperform his competitors? And these are powerful tools.
I think CJ will outperform his competitors. Woo! So what are some practical ways that small businesses can start with implementing these AI tools that you've talked about?
Well, first off, people tend to be overwhelmed, right? Like, oh my God, I had no idea. Well, first off, when they see a presentation that I do, I just worked with a group of CEOs yesterday. And after spending 3 hours together, they've had a road to Damascus experience, and they go, oh my God, we need to train our people. We need to get engaged. I know nothing about this topic. I don't know what I don't know. I feel overwhelmed. You tell me, Jim, there are 30,000 AI apps. Oh my God, where do I start? They're just, overwhelmed. And so let's just start simply and say, okay, if we talk about transcription, there are tons. There's Otter, there's Fathom, there's Fireflies. Why don't we just settle on the market leader, which is Otter? They transcribe about a million minutes global, or a million words globally every single minute. So let's just start with Otter. There's a free version of Otter. So you get to transcribe 600 minutes of audio. Let's just start with Otter on the free version. Low risk, no risk. Okay. And then you go, wow, this is a powerful tool. I love this. Okay, upgrade to the monthly plan, $20. Okay, I now have this, and use it for a month or two. And now you go, okay, well, why don't I subscribe to the annual plan now that I've seen all the use cases? And now you pay less because you get a discount for an annual thing. So there's a methodology that you can start with transcription. Let's do the same for an LLM, large language model like ChatGPT, and competitors are Gemini or Anthropic's Claude, or, there's a whole bunch of them. But we're going to say ChatGPT is the leading one. Let's start there. And then let's learn how to use this tool. So some people will go to an AI tool, let's say ChatGPT, and they say, tell me everything I would ever want to know about queens. And they get a garbage answer back. And they say, these LLMs are stupid. Well, why? Because the AI doesn't know what the context of your question is. Am I talking about queens like the Queen of England, who's recently deceased? Am I talking about queens in a beehive and how a beehive works? Am I talking about a drag queen and drag queens? Am I talking about the history of playing cards? Am I talking about Freddie Mercury and the band Queen and its
Where my
playing?
mind went.
That's where Freddie Mercury, we are the
I don't
champions.
know why. I just thought, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead, Jim. Sorry about that.
Am I talking about the game of chess? So I blame the tool because it gave me a garbage answer, unaware that I was not very good at prompting.
Mhm.
And I help our clients to go from an entry-level prompter who gets garbage back because they don't wrap their query in context to an 801 Ninja prompter. And when you actually learn these tricks on how to prompt properly, the tool begins to sing for you. And you go, oh my God, I had no idea how powerful this was.
Yeah, it's a low barrier to entry because it's free,
Yeah,
but you have no idea how to use it, you know?
no.
Right.
Yeah, learning how to use it's so important. So, so important.
So, you know, the same example, like if you go on holiday and you just say to a travel agent, book me some tours, and they book you some tours and you hate them. The
Right.
problem wasn't the travel agent. The problem was I didn't give them parameters.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a
makes
great
sense.
analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like what you said about kind of starting small with like Otter, starting small with that, starting small with ChatGPT. Um, so after like, are there any other tools that you would recommend? Maybe after someone starts with like Otter and then they move on to ChatGPT, is there any other tools that you would recommend that small businesses can implement?
The
Sure,
next.
Chelsea, there are only 30,000 of them.
I feel like you
And
should say that.
really, here's the thing. Here's like we run boot camps, but they're generic, right? And the problem with that is if I say to you, what is the best food on a buffet with every food that's ever been created in the world? What's your answer, Chelsea?
It would be specific. Well, I would say Alfredo pasta because I like Alfredo pasta. So
Okay, and
that's my
Jacob, what would
answer.
you say?
I'd say lox bagel.
Exactly. So, and you know, I might say, you know, a lobster pasta with
It's
a,
a choice.
a very garlicky Caesar salad on the side. So every single answer is going to be different for every person that you ask. And so to really drive value, you need a bespoke solution. You need what I call advisory service. The CEO and your board of directors, your executive committee, like if you're a publicly traded company, you'll have a board of directors. If you're a privately held SME, you'll have an executive team. And you really need advisory service at that level where you get one-on-one, you know, AI specialists deeply understanding your business and bringing to the table the AIs that will most benefit you and giving you a sequence of implementation based on your team's tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty and speed of learning. So if your company is very risk averse and very slow to change, you start with the examples I just gave of Otter and ChatGPT. There's no barrier to entry, right? So let's get rid of the fear and let's start having fun with this. If your company has a lot of Gen Zs and younger millennials who are chomping at the bit to use this, we can get a little more aggressive in our roadmap to implementation. But what we want to do is figure out what are the AIs that will give you the best ROI in the least amount of time with the least amount of change that you have to go through. And as you master those, you go, this was actually kind of great. Okay, let's take the next tranche. And you can get more and more difficult to implement AIs as you go along that path. So you start really easy, you get quick wins, you motivate your team. And then, okay, we've done those two. What's the next two? And you keep on adding. And there's three ways. Think about a triangle. There are three levels. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the bottom is productivity. This is where everybody's focused. And there are apps that increase productivity by more than 10,000x. So, wow, that's getting a lot of the focus. The next layer in the triangle, the middle, is in creation. That's where I can create images and videos and songs. We've talked about that briefly. But the highest level is strategic insight. So how can I use these tools for strategic insight in my market? How can I use these tools for what if I was a large company, would have paid McKinsey millions of dollars for consulting insights into my unique market? How can I use these tools and have those kind of insights right away for free? So we need to think about this hierarchy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so we've talked about, you just mentioned productivity. We're a marketing firm. So how would you say AI could help with a small business market, market themselves? That's something that we see so many small businesses stumble over themselves doing. And plus they just don't have time usually within their small team. So could you give us some specific examples of how they could use AI to market?
Sure. So Stephen used to have this great example. Stephen Covey, he said, have you ever been so busy driving you didn't have time to stop for gas? How did that go for you? Right?
Not great.
Not great. I hate calling the CAA on the side of the road with no gas. It's like really embarrassing. Oh my God. So here's the thing. We have to continually invest in new tools, new productivity enhancing ways of working. And this has to be ongoing. We can't be so busy that we can't stop to look at our business and figure out how to improve it. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a CEO. She's in the pharmaceutical space, and the open rates on unsolicited emails are pretty low. And she would always be pitching other CEOs in the pharma space. But now what she does is she goes out to ChatGPT and says, I'm pitching this CEO. What is every single article that's ever been written on them, or every annual report and every CBC interview or CBC Radio Canada interview, and let's analyze them all for their pain points. And then she's using ChatGPT or one of the other LLMs to do this. And then let's prioritize them. And then let's create headlines for the subject line about, I've been thinking about your interview that you did on CBC last week, and you mentioned this, and we have a couple of solutions around that. So in other words, don't give them a generic email about how you can help them, which isn't addressed to their pain points. Why don't we get deep into it and then do it? And her open rate is up 5x.
Wow.
What is it worth to you to get 5x the number of people who are prospects moving into the warm leads column, moving into the potentially close them column? Do you think these AI tools will help marketers and salespeople?
It just allows them to specifically tailor their message to the individual, right? Like that's so powerful.
Yes.
Jim, we can't talk about AI without talking about the misconceptions around it. There's so many. People are, like you already mentioned, people are, they can be angry at it, they can be scared of it. What are some common misconceptions, and how would you counter those when people would bring these up?
So 63% of working Canadians fear AI very much, or at least partially. And there's some very good reasons for that. We've seen the Terminator with Arnold. You know, we've seen iRobot with Will Smith. You know, we've seen Ex Machina. We've been sold a very dystopian view of AI by Hollywood because that sells movies, right? And there is something called AGI, which is a general AI, okay? That's like Skynet. So if the government of Canada said, we're going to outsource all decision-making for governmental policy and military action to an AGI, that's like saying, okay, let's turn on Skynet in the Terminator. And that is a very scary situation. Why is that? Because if you say to the AI, you are empowered to do anything, and I want you to solve this climate change problem, the AI will study it and very quickly go, well, you know, the real problem with climate change is people. If we just killed all the people on the planet, there wouldn't be any climate change. Okay, kill all the people. Yes, so that would be problematic, right?
Yeah.
We are not talking about AGI when we're talking about what we're talking about today. We're talking about help me transcribe with Otter. Right?
Yeah.
So people have this fear of AI bred in part out of Hollywood, which is legitimate. Like AGI can be very problematic, but we're not talking about AGI here. So point number one. Point number two is people fear job loss. And we talked about that. This AI is going to take my job. You know, we talked about farming in 175 years ago in Canada, but think about my grandmother who lived in 1900. They had telephone operators. And there were tens of thousands, typically women, who would sit and take a cord and patch it into a different thing to connect a phone call. Well, once switch automation happened, tens of thousands of women lost their jobs as phone operators. Well, we don't have those jobs anymore. But again, today we have full employment. There are 2 million job openings in the US healthcare system right now. So, you know, we fear job loss, but really we have full employment, and it's very tough to find and retain people in companies. So we shouldn't be worried about that. We should be looking at how can we use AI to enhance our marketing, our sales, particularly if you're an SME. So I have a completely different view on it, and we've already talked about, let's start. If people are deeply fearful, let's start by engaging them around the low-hanging fruit of pieces of their work that they hate.
Show them the positives first, right?
Exactly. So with that, this is why my clients hire me to come and speak to all their employees. Let's engage every single person in the organization to, you know, take the elephant in the room, like we fear job loss, like, and say, no, we don't want to lay off any people. So in CJ's example, his 10 salespeople are not being laid off with automation. In fact, you know, he's busier than ever before. It's job enhancement. It's like having superpowers. And when I hear companies or industries or leaders or governmental people saying, oh, we don't want to ever use AI, to me, it's like saying we don't want our people to have superpowers. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, you know, let's talk disruption again. Like what, and let's think like 10 years in the future. What does small business look like in 10 years after, you know, however many years of AI development within that space?
So I want to give you an example. There's a museum, an art gallery and museum in Florida, St. Petersburg, that is dedicated to the artist Dali, the surrealist artist from Spain, Salvador Dali. He had a mustache.
Yeah,
Quite a character.
quite a look.
Anyways, what they've done is they created a DALL-E AI. So they fed it every single video of DALL-E, audio, every article he wrote or written about him, images of all his works, and they created DALL-E AI. And they put up in the entrance to the museum basically a 7-foot-high iPad that has DALL-E life size, and you can talk and interact with it.
That's so cool.
And ask it questions, right? So our kids today are raised on video. It needs to be engaging. Imagine a kid can ask DALL-E anything. Like, DALL-E, you have images of cats in your painting. Well, what was your feeling about cats? Why do you have so many cats in your painting? I called the museum about a month ago because I was giving a presentation to a group of CEOs, and this was one of the examples I wanted to use. So I asked the museum, have you taken that and shrunk it down to an app? Do you remember going to museums and art galleries as a kid, and you'd walk around to each painting and you rented one of those, phone things with a, you could, okay, painting number 422. This is a painting by Caravaggio in 1754, and but imagine you shrunk DALL-E down, and using 5G and pinpoint accuracy GPS, you could narrate, DALL-E could narrate your entire visit to the museum without any special equipment. You just get your earbuds and your smartphone, and you walk from thing to thing, and DALL-E is personally narrating for you every single one of his paintings, and you get to ask him out of left field questions. And he's actually on the screen, a video of him, an AI generated video of DALL-E telling you about it. Is that more interesting and engaging for students?
Absolutely.
Wow.
That sounds
These
incredible.
tools are incredibly powerful for education. I can pay thousands of dollars to go to a community college and learn Python, the most widely used computer language in the world. Or I can go to ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude and say, what is the first thing I need to learn Python? And it'll give it to me. And then I do it. And then I say, okay, what's the second thing? And then I say, I got narrow code. And it'll say, what hardware are you using? This hardware. Okay, we'll download this patch. And then boom. So on demand, at the learner's speed, it's like Wikipedia, Encyclopedia Britannica's knowledge for the whole world, but for free. Mm-hmm. And now with video and audio. So how is this going to transform education? How's it going to transform time to competence? If I have a new employee, but with these AI tools, can in the first 3 months get them performing at the level of a 3-year tenured employee, what's the value to the organization, especially if I'm an SME? So the applications are infinite and mind-blowing.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some people with really diverse skill sets in the future, all from AI and like how quick that learning process can be. Yeah, and how valuable is that? Like what you just said, especially for small businesses with small teams, it's going to be pretty impressive.
So just before we wrap up, can you share one final piece of advice for small businesses looking to embrace AI?
So first off, I would say leadership can begin anywhere in the company. But if you're going to really transform your organization, the CEO and the C-suite need to understand how powerful this is. And I'd like to ask you both a question. Who is closest to the future? The 65-year-old CEO who has his assistant print out all his emails so he can read them over the weekend, or the 18-year-old who's on Tinder or Bumble? Who's closest to the future?
I'm going to say the 18-year-old.
Woohoo! Who does all the strategic planning?
65-year-old.
65-year-old.
Is it any wonder we only get incremental change? Now, I don't want to I don't want to be ageist here. I don't want to suggest just because the CEO has no hair or gray hair that they can't change the world. But really, what are the systems and structures in an organization that lead to what I'm going to call reverse mentoring? So we need to have young people who have technical skills briefing the C-suite. And don't confuse these things. Don't confuse technical skills with deep business wisdom. So it's not an either or, it's an and. So how do we create engaging structures? Like on a personal level, do you have a reverse mentor? Question number one. Question number two, do you have a shadow board of Gen Zs and younger skewed millennials and you run major decisions by them? What systems do you have to continually get better business decisions given the rapid rate of technological change? And I'll give you one example. It took the airline industry 68 years to reach 50 million customers. It took Pokemon Go 19 days. So, you know, the world we're living in is changing so much faster. Now, I know some of your listeners are going to say, oh, that is such a bad example, Jim, because Pokemon Go is a game for little children. I'm talking about serious business here. Okay, whatever. ChatGPT took 50 days to reach 50 million customers. So my question to listeners is your company changing as fast as the market is changing? Is your company changing as fast as technology is changing business models in your industry? And is your company changing as fast as customer expectations? Because after this podcast, I can go buy a book on Amazon and it will be at my front door tomorrow morning. Mm-hmm. Do I bring that expectation to your company and your industry, even though you're not in retail and online shopping? Absolutely. It's grossly unfair as an expectation, but that's what your customers expect. Are you transforming? Are you delivering product, service, and customer service as fast as they expect it? And if not, disaster is imminent. And this is relative. So if you're in an industry that's slow to change, as long as you're better than everyone else, you're going to do well. You don't have to compete with Amazon. You just have to compete with other laggard companies. So this is the most exciting time ever to be alive. And we all are in the most exciting industry, which is learning and development, helping our clients to compete better. And so I do advisory service, which is advising CEOs and boards of directors. We do training. I work with Integram. We do training, 12-week boot camps, because training, it doesn't sound sexy, but a boot camp, oh my God, I want a boot camp. So we do boot camps, we do training, we do one-on-one coaching, all of these things. Have you embraced this? Are you taking time to make sure you understand how profound this change is and how it can help you as an SME leader?
Thank you so much for joining us today, Jim.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope this conversation has sparked new ideas and inspired small business owners to embrace the transformative power of AI.
Remember, the journey to integrating AI doesn't have to be daunting. Start small, stay curious, and explore the endless possibilities. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below, and stay tuned for more small business tips.
And if we piqued your interest, you can always visit us at integram.net or go to Jim Harris's website, jimharris.com, or any of our socials. Thanks a lot, everybody.